the stealthy hunting dog. Got our eyes locked on a bear about 300 yards away, easily. It's crazy. Well, at least I know there's a bear behind me this time. Instead of getting surprised. Not a bad-sized male bear. Not something I'd want to harvest. Not yet. It's not old enough. Not old enough yet for me. So, I'm gonna sit here and do my thing. Get voices shared right away. This is rad. Pretty good view all around here, that's for sure. Listen to this. Time lost and just strange stuff in the woods. That time lost thing, that interests me. Steve, my name is Jeremy. Feel free to use my name. Although I've never seen one of these creatures with my own eyes, I've had some strange experiences I'd like to share. The first one is what I called time loss. My wife was driving my daughter and I home from a trip about an hour away. Shortly after we left to head home, we were going through a wooded area in Connecticut. Connecticut again. The next thing I knew, we were 5 minutes from home. I thought, wait, how are we here already? I thought maybe I'd fallen asleep, even though I didn't wake up. I just kind of came to, I guess. I asked my wife if I'd fallen asleep and she insisted, no, you've just been staring out the window. I explained to her how I could have sworn we just left to head home. She said shortly after we left I stopped talking and just stared at the window. I believe these creatures are on a different dimension and wonder to this day if one of them saw me looking in the woods from my car and just caused me to lose my conscience until I was far enough away to not be a threat. Second story I want to share was about 12 years ago. It was winter and there's probably about 6 inches of snow on the ground. A family friend who was living with us asked me, want to grab rifles and go for a hike on the Airline Trail? I said sure, and we headed out. The Airline Trail is an old railroad trail about a quarter mile in the woods from our backyard. However, to get up the trail there's a steep hill we have to almost crawl up to get to the trail. Finally at the top, winded and hot from bundling up, my friend and I laid our rifles against a tree and simultaneously proceeded to take off our sweaty shirts. As I pulled my sweatshirt from over my head, I saw my friend do the same, and at that moment we both heard a whoosh. I then looked to pick up my rifle and said, "Where the hell is it?" It wasn't where I left it. I know exactly where I put it because the imprint of the butt of the stock was in the snow, but the rifle was gone. The tree I rested against was right at the edge of a steep hill. I worried maybe it slipped and fell off to one side and slid all the way back down. So I take a step downhill. There it is, leaning up against the same tree on the opposite side. The weirdest part was it was leaning against the tree, barrel down. The barrel was in the snow and the butt of the rifle was leaning against the tree. I looked at my friend and he looked at me. We both accused each other, but explained it was impossible for one of us to do. That's probably one of the single most unexplainable things that has ever happened to me. Was it one of those creatures that was afraid of our rifles? Was it a spirit or a conductor stuck to where the tracks used to be? I don't know. But if anyone has ever had an experience like either of these, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Thanks a lot for sharing my story, Steve, and thank you for providing a safe place for us all to share our experiences. Stay safe out there, Jeremy. Jeremy, that sounds kind of creepy, man. That is a creepy one. Now, I'm curious to know if somebody else is going to chime in with something like that. Similar. Time's going to tell, right? Comment section below, you guys. Losing time. That's very, very interesting to me because a lot of people have lost time. And it's alarming. It is alarming. Sorry, I'm reading and I can't read and speak at the same time, unfortunately. Sometimes when I'm reading something else and trying to talk. This next one's titled 14 Feet Up. Hello, Steve. My name's Greg. Years ago, I was way out in the sticks in Willie's Puddle, or Williams Lake, BC, with some relatives and a couple friends on a hunt. We were camped about an hour off the closest paved road. I was, for the most part, lots of crazy bird sounds here. Sorry. I was, for the most part, there to enjoy the camping, help gather firewood, field dress, and push bush. We were out there for the better part of a month, if I'm not mistaken. Walked many miles through knee to waist-high snow, cut slashes and fog so thick I had to feel my way once I entered the tree line until the sun came up and cut through the fog pushing bush. That's dangerous, man. That's very dangerous. Fog and forest. One valuable lesson I'll never forget is to put your rifle behind you when reading a compass. That mistake has cost me one leg from a pair of thick cotton pants, 3 or so additional hours of being lost in the dark, and about 2 extra miles of walking to get to the nearest road. This wasn't the first trip I joined my dad and other family members on, but unlike the others, till no one had cut a tag or been able to put a rack on anything until the last couple of days. The only luck up until the last week was a jackalope I chased around the truck with a 410 and some grouse. Then on the morning of the day I'll never forget, just before the sun crept over the mountain, we finished our coffees, just as my uncle informed us that he needed help to track a wounded deer not too far from camp. My job is to push bush, of course, so my dad dropped me off about a half mile downwind from where everyone else positioned with hopes I'd flush this deer out. The light of the sun had only lit the sky, not the ground, because it hadn't got over the mountain yet. So, once I got into the tree line, it was still pretty dark. With my dad's 30-30 open sight lever action, loaded with some spices, home loads, off I went. This boom stick was pretty old, passed down generation to generation. Apparently my great-grandfather even lent it to the Indians to hunt way back. At least that's what I was told. Okay, back to the point. I walked about 30 or so feet into the thick. The snow at that point was waist high, and because one leg of my heavy-duty cotton pants was tore off the previous morning from falling into a huge ravine full of thorns, I was getting cold quick. I figured I would take a breather by leaning back on a big branch. The snow had weighed down enough that it was the perfect angle. I kept the rifle covered so no snow could get down the barrel and leaned back onto the branch. No sooner did I get comfortable than I could clearly hear something breathing. I mean big, long inhale and big, long exhale. Right at this point is when my legs refused to move. Whatever I could hear breathing was not only something I couldn't equate to anything I knew of. Whatever it was directly behind me, right on the other side of the same tree that the branch I was leaning on belonged to. Obviously, I was too scared to turn around, and why chance it when it was still too dark to try and see what I could hear breathing. Out of the corner of my left eye, I noticed movement above me. Against the dimly lit sky, I could see steam. It was the steam from the exhaling of whatever stood only 6 feet behind me. I don't recall smelling anything at all, but I do recall how quiet the woods were, other than the light breeze and the crunching of my footsteps through the snow. The real fear set in when I realized that from where the enormous plumes of steam were filtering through the tree branches, every time whatever it was exhaled was 14 feet off the ground. I know I'm accurate with my measurement, being in the construction industry my whole working life. If I was off at all, it would have been no more than 1 inch. So now my brain's rapidly going through the list of known forest-dwelling animals as fast as possible, but nothing makes sense. All I can think of is, don't let it see the rifle. Yes, I was, by process of elimination, almost positive it was a Sabe at this point. At the same time, I was almost sure I was toast until I realized that if it was a Sabe, it was more interested in that wounded deer than me. Or at least that's what I hoped. Bear is still there in sight, but not interested in story time, is he? Eagle. After fighting with my legs to move, I slowly leaned forward enough to stand again, and slowly walked straight back out the way I came in and toward the road, the whole time praying it wouldn't notice the rifle. As soon as I was about 40 feet away from the tree, I slowly looked back over my shoulder, but still saw nothing, only the steam coming through the tree. That is until this thing screamed loud enough to make my hair stand up. At the same time it screamed, it shook that entire tree so violently that all the snow fell and the branches were snapping off. I can't think of any way to accurately describe how violently that tree shook. It was terrifying. Then it sounded like others described, like a dump truck crashing through the trees with unmistakable thumping of footsteps. I could not only hear but easily feel. It's been 30 plus years since that morning and I haven't set foot in the bush again. Thank you, Steve. Thank everyone else for helping others. Much respect. Yeah, it'd be a pretty tough one to swallow, wouldn't it? That sucks. I hate hearing about people that have their life ruined. Their outdoors life ruined. It's not fair, man. Just not fair. Not fair. And that's close to home, obviously. Close to home for me where that went down. Appreciate you sharing, man. If you got anything else that you know of since your encounter and talking to people around the hood, let us know. Let us know if there's anything we might benefit from knowing as well, okay? Let's see what else we got here. Who else? What else? My experiences in California, 2013 to 2015. With some photos. Mark this as red. Hi Steve, I've been watching your channel for about 8 months. As I saw it on a Bigfoot group, I am in on Facebook. Thank you for giving a voice to all the people who have had experiences with the forest people. I was called delusional and crazy back in 2013 when I said they were not apes but a race of people. You can use my name as Don Goff, and I lived in Riverside, California. I'm sorry this is so long. No apologies. Nobody ever apologized for the length of their story, man. get it all out. We're here for this, no matter how long it takes. Excuse me. My father had Alzheimer's, and I could not work on cars anymore. I watched videos from Arizona by Mitch Waite, Bigfoot Research on YouTube. My father would pull up a chair and by my computer and say, "Wow, what the hell was that?" I told him it was a forest person, a Bigfoot. He was able to see what I saw in the videos. I did still picture captures for Mitch and watched the videos frame by frame to get them. When my father passed away in June of 2013, and I was 52 years old, Mitch told me to go to my local mountains, Big Bear Mountain, and look for water and food sources, and I would find them. August 2013, I took my neighbor Anna, who was 17 years old, and we went up and took still pictures with my new HD camera. I did one video of her at the lake. There was a drought, and we walked down to the water runoff channel that was an overflow from the lake that was 50 feet long and ended with a 35-foot drop into the gorge. I held my camera up and looked at the brush across the gorge, and I saw a young boy in the brush from the chest up. He had light skin, long blondish brown hair, and steel blue eyes. He had large eyebrows and a large flat nose and a little hair on his arms or chest. He looked like a Neanderthal, but his skin was light as mine. He had fear in his eyes that I could see him. I whispered to Anna, "I think I see a young Bigfoot," and she screamed so loud, "Where?" I looked back into the camera and he was gone. We drove up to Lake Arrowhead and we were at the dam. Most of the trails and roads are private where we turned in. There was a large, deep, very long bellow howl from behind the dam on a hill, and it vibrated my chest and body. And all the dogs at the homes on that hill started barking and going nuts. And Anna said, "Whoa, what was that?" I told her I think it was a Bigfoot howling. On my third trip, I went alone and found a place to sit behind some rocks on a hill. I started praying to God to take care of my father and how much I missed him, and that I knew he was now whole again. A mass of electrical current filled the air, and the hair on my entire body went up. I then felt two hands on my shoulders, rubbing them as to comfort me, and I started crying uncontrollably. I said out loud, "Thank you, God." I went up there 3 to 4 times a week and eventually moved up on that mountain in a little mobile home with my 2 dogs. Duncan was a Beagle mix and Buster was a Chihuahua mix. I had several encounters over the time I went there, and one day it was raining in October, and I was the only crazy human at the lake. I took a few videos, and I turned the camera off and was going down the trail back to the car, and I saw 2 dark figures in the pouring rain walking up a hill. One about 8 feet tall and the other about 5 feet tall. I did not have my camera on, and as I watched them go up the hill, they just disappeared. Then I got the hair on my arms and neck up and hurried back to my car and left. I had many gifts of rocks and feathers left on the porch table of my little mobile home. I've since moved to Oklahoma to be with my sister, and I do not go out seeking the forest people here. I know they exist. The first photo was a young forest person in a tree, and the second photo was a young female forest person behind some trees of the creek by Camp Seely, S-E-E-L-Y. Alright, there are the photos, and that is the end of the email. And because it's that camera, I can share them this way. I think. Let's see. Alright, there's one of the photos sent in with this email. And here's the other one sent in with this email. And there you go. Mr. Bear is still out there. Huh. I'm going to go a little bit and get another angle on it for 1 second. He's nervous. Either heard something or smelled something. It wasn't me. This is the helicopter. Token helicopter, right? Imagine if I had $5 for every helicopter that made its way into one of these videos. Alright, let's get some more herd. I'm going to go check a little spot in a little bit here. Actually, we found a spot of a very, very large old boar last evening, so I'm going to be on the prowl for him today. Now listen to this. It's titled No Fear. Steve, been following you and your channel since the time I saw you stick an arrow down the gauntlet of that moose. That was awesome. That was a pretty crazy day. Sorry about Mr. Macaroni. It's hard to lose your best friend. There's not a day goes by that I don't think about my Shasta. God rest their souls. Sorry, Steve, back to my counter. My father was a hard man. His firstborn, which is my older brother, had a bone disease called Osgood Slaughter, which in turn your bones want to be a 6 foot, but your body says no, you're going to be 5 foot. My dad is a coach for Fairmont State College basketball. Of course, he was a sports guy. That meant the sports was up to me. I knew when physical day was there, he will be standing in the hallway at school, motioning for me to come on. Of course, I wasn't allowed to play basketball or baseball. I had wrestling and football, full contact sports, which I excelled in. He wouldn't go to the games on Friday night, but he would sit and listen to it on the radio at home. My mission was to make sure that he heard his last name announced on the radio all night, Steve. I did. I made sure he heard his last name all night, every game. I wouldn't dare come home without being a part of every play. So he taught me that you will never be afraid of no man. So, Steve, I had no fear of nothing. Well, of course, in the summer, we have a full day practices, and of course, my activity bus dropped me off last every night. And from where the bus drops me off is a 1.25 miles to my house. Mind you, the bus dropped me off at 9 p.m. every night. So, I had 50 pounds of gear I had to take home and clean every night before bed for the next day. This was my time to think about the playbook and how to shave seconds off the 100-yard dash. This particular night, when I got off the activity bus and the bus pulled off, I couldn't see. I couldn't even see. Sorry. Reflection got me there, you guys. It was so dark. I've never seen it so dark. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I never took a flashlight. I didn't ever need one. And not only that, I had no fear. Steve, to be honest with you, I never knew what fear was like until that night. About a half a mile, you come to an old reservoir that the state ended up draining because of so many drownings. All of a sudden, there was footsteps on the other side of the road walking with me. At first I didn't pay no mind, but it was the crunching of the leaves and the shrubs. It wouldn't come out on the road. So I thought it might have been a cow loose or a horse because their breathing sounded like a horse. So I walked at the edge of the road where I could hear it. And I put my hand out and snapped my fingers and I said, "Come here, boy." But it did not come to meet me. It didn't back up, but it didn't come forward. It just stopped. But the breathing never stopped. So I snapped my fingers again, trying to get a smell because of if it was a horse, I could smell pasture in his breath. I didn't smell pasture. If it was a cow, I could smell dairy-like milk from its breath. With this smell, I never knew what it was. I'd never experienced this smell. So honest to God, I shrugged my shoulders and started walking again. But then I realized it was walking on 2 legs. So out of curiosity and mid-stride, I left my front right foot in the air in mid-stride while I was walking, and it did the same, so I knew it could see me. Steve, the fire started at my feet, and it went straight up through my body. When it hit my head, I was off to the races. My head felt like it was floating, but I knew I was running because I could feel my head going up and down, and every once in a while, I feel my gear hitting me in the small of my back. I ran like the devil was behind me. Finally, I saw the faint light, which was from the porch. When I came through that solid oak door and my father sitting in the recliner, he jumped up pissed because I came through the door like I did, and he asked me why I wasn't going to tell him that I just found out what fear was. I told him I hurried home so I could get my football gear cleaned and go to bed, and at least if he was going to be home, he could pick me up at the end of the road. So, Steve, here I am on the activity bus again the next night. Of course, no one there to pick me up. I got off the bus, couldn't see my hands in front of my face. To be honest with you, Steve, I didn't even think about what happened the night before. So I started walking, of course. I get to the reservoir. Hey, Steve, it was waiting on me. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I stopped, looked across the road, which I couldn't tell what it was, and I said, "Damn it, you again." And I felt that fire. When I hit my head, I was off to the races once more. Once more, I couldn't wait to see the light from the porch. Well, of course, my dad's truck's in the driveway. I came through that door like it was nothing. He came up out of his recliner, pissed. I came through the front door like a madman. I told him if he wanted me to play football, then he better pick me up from now on at the end of the road, because if I had to walk home one more time with something that I couldn't see, that I knew was there, then I quit football, taking my gear, and the next day, and I was done. He got up, threw me a flashlight. I smashed the light on the floor and told him, "Don't you dare do that to me." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because I don't want to see what it is. And if I do see what it is, then I know you're a liar, because he told me that there's nothing to fear." So he told me that he would be there tomorrow night. Well, Steve, the activity bus the next day was dropping me off, and of course my dad's truck wasn't there. But this little shiny red car was sitting there with my dad's company letterhead with a note written on the window. "This is for you to drive home, and it doesn't leave the hollow until you have your driver's license." I was 15. Steve, to this day I beep the horn when I get to that reservoir. I now know what true fear feels like. God bless, and please use my name, Daniel Lee, West by God, Virginia. Okay, man, appreciate it. Not too much of a very detailed story with, seeing something like a lot of people send in, but the point I'm going to make is it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, nobody's a professional writer. Nobody can put us there and accurately put us there and get across what the experience is like to have something in bush like this, which is frickin' jungle, stepping beside you, pacing you. You have to picture it to understand the significance, the impact of that, right? It's not good. It's not good. You're lucky. Lucky you got that car. All right. Another one. This is titled Another One. Like this is red. I'm trying not to talk too loud, but some years ago I went to a Bible camp in western Montana. One day I hitched a ride with some of the other attendees to go to a store. Well, on a whim, they decided to go on a hike into the mountains, and guess who didn't want to go, but was trapped in the car? So off we went. We were hiking uphill alongside a stream. We heard not one but two tree knocks. I didn't know what they were at the time, but each time all our heads turned toward the tree line and back in unison. I also felt creeped out, like we were being watched. I really didn't want to be there. Farther up the hill, I spotted a sign that was labeled restroom, and the arrow pointed to an outhouse a short distance off the trail. Since I needed to use the facilities, I started toward the building. Once inside and sitting down, that frequently described absolute terror overtook me. I wanted to bolt, but I couldn't at that moment. I knew that something was in the outhouse standing right in front of me, but I couldn't see it. What? I had a sense but that big hairy monster, Cousin It from the Addams Family TV series. The terror level was overwhelming. I don't think anyone else has ever come close to it in my lifetime. Anything else. When I could finally leave the outhouse, I ran like my life depended on it, but I also knew if it had wanted me, I would have had no chance to escape like I did. We got to the waterfall and the trip back was uneventful, albeit my head was on a swivel all the way back. I was really thankful to get back to the camp in safety. Thanks for the OP to share this experience. It is being burned into my memory. Maybe now that it's shared with a sympathetic audience, it'll fade into the past. Just as you hunt the dangerous wilderness alone and without fear, so you are single-handedly hunting down the truth in the wilderness of lies and deception. Once a hunter, always a hunter. Deborah. That would really be a shitty trip to the bathroom. Deborah? Yeah. Crazy. Alright. I'm going to go one more. So I can't really focus. I can, but I can't when I'm doing this. Because my ears are trying to listen to every single sound around me. Tide's going out. I'm going to have to drag this thing across some mud to get back in the water. I was thinking I might try to take you guys into that forest in a minute too and just show you exactly what it's like in there. It is. It's a jungle. Let's get this one more share done here. Then I'm going to go on the hunt. Good day, Steve. Denise here from Merritt. Merritt's from British Columbia, you guys. I read some of the posts from my last share and I thought I'd clear some things up. The photos to me looked to be a mother and baby. Baby's footprints were size 5 to 6, but sank 4 inches in the mud. When I stood on it, I didn't sink. You have to zoom in. Some photos. Make your own decisions. Oh yes, truck stop food. I like the green curry. Anywho, here we go. My husband and I are walking the dogs on KVT. It's not far from where we live, and the same area where I took photos of the footprints. As I said, we do about 4 miles with the dogs. This is the same place before where I found the tracks. It was after dinner. Took the kids out and down to the old tracks. 3/4 of the way, we find a goose, Canadian, in the bush about 10 feet up. No blood, no smell, no tracks, no feathers around either. It looks as if the neck was twisted. This was enough for me to keep walking. This was enough for me to keep walking this hike, but I'd never do it alone. Here's another. Towards the end of the summer, 2 years ago, maybe 3, I don't go down there much. I keep having these feelings. Although I'm more worried about when I feel really comfortable down there. That's when I'm really on edge. Here we go. After dinner, it was getting late, pretty warm day. I didn't get out early enough. I was in classes. Put the kids in the Jeep, going down on KVT. I think that's something trail, initials for a trail, walking trail. Let them out above and drive down. When it's almost dusk, I don't go on the trail. In my first share, I said my girlfriend seen the gray one cross. She said it was gray and looked like a quad. I thought, cool. But we didn't go all the way to the end that day. Well, that's what I saw that evening. I was still about half a mile away, but I felt uneasy already. So I thought, I'm going to watch ahead of me. Kids were walking all over, enjoying the cool evening, and that's when I saw it. I was kind of shocked and a little scared. This thing was huge. Third time I saw this one, but never at the end. I haven't measured the tracks, but it was on all 4s, gray-white. Back rear feet were literally on one side of the tracks. You can see the front arms leaping over, all in one stride. The back legs just hovered over and followed the arms. When it landed on the other side of the tracks, what can do that? Wonder how I can see that far? It had to be pretty huge. I'm looking at a straight road that used to be a train track. The KVT is like an old road now for farmers to work the fields on either side of the tracks. Anyway, I went as far as the tree we usually walk to. Grabbed kids, said, okay, let's go. We left. I never moved so quickly to get them in. I felt very uncomfortable. The dogs never reacted in any way. They were having fun on their quick walk about. Here's another one, had to ask permission first. My sister and I showed her the prints. She finally thought, okay, I believe. So I asked her if she wanted to do a nighttime cruise. She said, okay. I mentioned that I won't go up to that guy's old camp. I won't say who. Didn't tell the family I was up there. We get ready. It's only 9:30, 10 p.m. Nice and dark. We're in the Jeep, drive about 30, 45 minutes. While we're driving, she's asking for the flashlights. I said, forget them. Plus, they weren't charged. She said, okay. I get to this bush on the road, and I stop. Just felt funny. I said, I'm stopping here. Meanwhile, she's quiet, looking around. I didn't think much of it. I turn around and drive back to the fork in the road and stop. Then she starts talking. I was looking ahead, where you stopped at that bush. I said, yeah. She goes on to tell me that she has seen eyes above the bush, walking as if it was going to cross in front of us. Headlights reached where it was going to walk. Sorry, it's awkward to read this one. Headlights reached where it was going to walk across. It stopped and started walking back toward the tree line. I thought, no way. That's where I had a funny feeling and wanted to turn around. We were just sitting there. Two women, 5'2", or a couple 120 pounds each. I rolled up my window. She's pretty brave though, has hers rolled down. She pulls out her iPhone and uses her flashlight. Not even 50 feet away we could see eyes shine. Kept looking at us and turning back behind itself. She started to talk to it. I can see you. It blinked. Looked away. She said again, I can see you. It would look away. She did that for a bit. We just sat there until I couldn't sit there anymore. Meanwhile, I'm looking behind us using the brake lights. Looking beside us, using the brake lights, looking behind us. I stopped and just watched the eyes too. She was in awe, truly amazed. I was shitting bricks. We had a long way to go to make it to the main back road yet, and it's bumpy. We stopped watching and started our way back. I'm pretty sure it followed us to this point between two fields. Sorry. There was a hill with trees. I saw something run beside us and into the trees, and it was on all fours. It was black and quick. I was just relieved to make it that far, as we were closer to the main back road. The next day, we went out to check for tracks. Nothing. We did find a tree structure. It was all made of long trees, narrow, tall. Have that on video. But we're in it, so I'm not going to share that. Did some exploring. We found a bush and field too, where it was looking at us. But the bush was 10 feet tall, at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could see past it. It looked like something was sitting, but it was huge, no prints. Back at that field where I was looking and thought I saw a short one between the trees looking at us. Today I believe I did, because when I looked at the trees, now there's nothing there. Last year my brother-in-law texted me about the same tree structure. I said, yes, we found that 2 years ago. He said, well, it's pretty big now. I told him it was kind of small and narrow. He said, no, it's big. They grow, he said. We laughed, like, yes, I know, you know, type of thing. He also went on to say that we went up behind the structure. On the left of the structure, there's an invisible, overgrown road, and found trees broken in the same direction, pretty high up. I mean, trees broken off in a direction going the same way. He left, came back down, and I haven't gone up yet to check, but one day I will. Hope you're safe. Thank you for your group. I have more. We started going out at night, just girls, usually 3 of us, but we stopped a couple years ago. I'm just finally getting courage to go back out. I mostly walk in town now, Denise. Okay, Denise, that was a different kind of email. Next time you write, don't use apostrophe, period, and then keep writing. You did that about 50 times, and it makes it really awkward, okay? If you write in again. But from what I can take of this, there's a bunch of sightings not far from Merritt on the KVR trail, was it? Sorry, I'm half awake right now. Not much sleep. There's a few trails in British Columbia where they tore up the train tracks, the old railway tracks, and they declared them as parks and walking, hiking trails. Sounds like it must be one, right? If anybody, I know there has been a lot of sightings around Merritt, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people from there listening to this channel. If you want to share them, what you got, please do, all right? All right. Can't really concentrate here, so I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to see if I'm going to try to walk into this bush with you guys for a second, just for the hell of it, all right? Just for the hell. Here we go. I always, when I'm trying to enter a forest I've never been in, I'll look for water, creeks. Usually the easiest, quickest way to get into up a mountain through timber is where water dumps out, if you can. But that initially will get you into the forest. So here's a little bit of a trough here, but look at this frickin' jungle. Yeah, good luck, right? It's 10 feet in and you're struggling. Look at this stuff. I'm on a 45-degree angle with the camera right now. Bear trails. Look at this full frickin' jungle. Pretty uneventful in here, but very tough to hike through. Look at that stuff. Alright, I'm gonna go. I'll be back again. Oh, look at that bear trail right there. Can't really see it, can you? There we go. Full bear tunnel right there. Padded down trail in this jungle. Alright, back to the boat. The ocean was up at the bow when I first sat down. I got a little dragging to do.